Hi, Rich Carrubba for bowlingball.com. Let's talk about how bowling is scored. Now, you're a new bowler to the game, a beginning bowler. Maybe you've had some exposure to it and bowled with friends. You're relying on the automatic scorekeeper to keep score for you, and all that's fine. We live in that information age now where the computers do most of the work. But the better you get, the more competitive you get in bowling. It's good to know the strategy of how bowling is scored, how you can keep score yourself to understand it so you can kind of forecast how you're doing in relation to your competitors or even in relation to your friends. Most people bowl in leagues. That's a form of competition, and it's good to understand the score system, how it works. Now, it's very difficult to do that speaking to you here, so we do have an article, How Bowling is Scored, you can check, and How to Keep Score in Bowling. There's two articles, some of the similar information in it. If you read them both, I'm sure you'll get a little insight into what you need to do to understand the scoring system. But I think some basics right now are good to mention. We know a strike is when you get all 10 pins on your first delivery, and everyone probably knows it's called a spare when you pick up the 10 pins in two deliveries. An open frame is simply when you don't get 10 pins in two particular frames. A split is a combination is just a different combination of a spare, and it's usually when pins are pretty wide apart and the ball can't hit them both, or on the same row next to each other where it's got to be a very precise delivery to convert them both. But usually splits end up in open frames, and that's really what they are, is just a first ball delivery that leaves pins standing in that formation. Enough about splits. The 10th frame, well, that's the final frame of the game, and you get 3 frames in it. So if you were to throw all strikes for a perfect 300 game, you would bowl 12 deliveries. The first 9 and then 3 in the 10th. So if you get a strike in the 10th, you get 2 more deliveries. If you get a spare in the 10th frame, you get 1 more delivery. Either way, it's a total of 3 deliveries is the maximum. And of course, if you throw an open frame, you just get the 2 deliveries because you didn't fill the frame. Now, we have an example on the article which takes you through a few 5 or 6 sample frames of what to do. I think inside of that, it gives you an example of getting a double, and then I think 7 pins on, and then you add 27 pins that are running total from the frame before. I think the article even leads off with an open frame in the first frame, and maybe you had 7 and then 2, and you had to mark it in the box, and you got 9 pins as running total in the first frame. You just accumulate each frame, you add to the running total from the previous frame until you complete your scoring for that game. So please review the article. It'll help you understand a little bit more about it. If you have any questions or comments, you can submit them to bowlingball.com. Right underneath the article, you can type it in, ask your questions, or whatever you wish to communicate. We'll be happy to get back with you. Now, the other things to note, I think, is that when you practice scoring yourself, when you're bowling in your own practice games, not in competition, if you keep score on a separate sheet of paper and then look up to see if you learned it and matches what the automatic scorer does. And once you do that, then you can even develop good strategies, because the better players mentally strike every game out. If, for example, if they're in the 5th frame and they look up and they see what their opponent has and what they have, well, if they think, if I strike out all this game all the way to the end, what will my score be? What's the maximum I can get from this point? And it's good to know that where you stand relative to your competition. It helps you make decisions on making good deliveries and where to line up, and all those things, making your adjustments and taking the fear of the unknown out of the game. It's a lot of fun too. So the mental technique prepares a bowler in competition, and it helps by understanding how bowling is scored. Hope it helps. Thank you.